Cool. So we're going to have a chat today with Karyn, who is a longtime friend and mentor of mine, someone that I've always respected and and look up to. And we're going to have a chat about Karyn's menopause journey today. So so welcome, Karyn. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Lynley, and thank you thank you for the work that you do, the mahi that you do, how you reach people's lives, and it's just really does make a difference. I want to start from there. Full acknowledgement to you. Yeah.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you.
Cool.
So I know parts of your story because obviously we have worked together through parts of it. We've done a ceremony on your beautiful land for your Maga ceremony. You're reaching your menopause. So so I'll let Karyn tell her story, but I'm interested to know firstly. So I kind of know how everything came about for you. But what did you ever have inklings of any perimenopausal, emotional, spiritual things? Like looking back now, can you see, before you were thrown in it with your story, which I'll let you tell, did you have any inklings, or looking back, can you see some changes that were happening within you as your change started?
Only hindsight, because I was not looking through the lens of perimenopausal. I'm the X generation. I found out about my period through the mud mark in the bottom of my pants after coming back from, it has to start back there, right? After coming back from my paper run, would have been 14, and it was just, I thought there was something wrong with me. When it happened again, the second one, I thought, oh, I better tell my mum because something's really wrong. And the way she dealt with it is very matter of fact, but not much conversation. And that was normal. That was just the way that those sort of things were dealt with. Just a quite beautifully prude environment where we grew up in, and yet free in other areas when it came to emotions and love. So I guess the exploration of my body, even all the way back then, was just accidental the whole way through, just like all of us. So when I look back now, and the beginnings of it highlighted was in some ways my attitude. My attitude was interesting, and a realization that I wasn't a young woman anymore. Still wanted to be, still led through the lens of the illusion, still demanded of my body, still expected it to be trim, to be fit, to deliver for me. And there was just points where I had to really check in because something wasn't right anymore. And it was about the same time I also started quite deep meditative practices with breathwork. It all corresponds. It's sort of like I was reaching more spiritually than I was for the seeking of, oh, I'm not going to be able to have babies anymore. Because that was an underlying quiet thing in the back of my mind. And I had an opportunity to have a late child in life within a relationship because he hadn't had any children. And everything inside of my body was like, everything inside of my mind was, I don't think so, not another 18 years. There's no way we'd do that. But also there was something inside of my body that was a little hopeful. And it was a very strange, odd thing I went through in secret, really. I secreted it within myself, of if that part of me just sort of like, it's your last chance, Karyn. I fought with it and I secreted it. That's the only way I can say it. It was that secret kind of quite, let's talk about this behind the lids, behind the lips, behind the clothes, behind what everyone else can perceive me as. Let us do this quite quietly. that all right as we're going through this journey? Because
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
a big part of it, I believe, is that realization. You can't now. Even now when I say it, and I have not bled in over 4.5 years, 5 years. Not exactly sure of the last one. And even now I'm like, oh my God, that's such a gift, being able to carry a child. So I can't speak to the woman, if there is a woman here who hasn't carried a child, honey, I can't speak to that. I can only speak to the life that I've lived, and I've carried 2 children. And when it comes up to, and I've also miscarried a child. It was early stages, but it happened. And those same, the gift of life that we carry and the grief that we might go through, that's, I think, what the big thing about menopause is it's this swap of importances. The attentions that a person like me seeked as a young woman, and even as a woman in her 40s, still seeked that sexual, sensual attention.
Yeah.
That was another thing for me to navigate through, because at that true level, and I don't think people talk about this enough, at that true level, that attention is very, 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 very tribal, very primal. Look, I can, if you're potent enough, you could carry the child, kind of thing. And in a sense, young women don't really know they're throwing that around. They're throwing around this potency of potential life that they can birth within them. And so when that starts to fade and wither, can I say it like that?
Yeah, yeah.
That's, Lynley, that's what it is. That for me,
yeah,
I felt the wither.
I
felt the dryness. I felt the autumn.
Yeah.
I felt the brittle. And I'm entering the energy of it because, hey, it's nothing to be fearful of or sad about. It's just an energy that runs through your system. And as she pops up at any point, I think it might be, you've probably done the research, I don't know, might be more sort of around that ovulation time, and then the and then where you might have your blood.
Yeah.
I think it is cyclic.
Yeah.
Because you're not feeling that all the time.
No.
There's other times where you feel like you're well oiled.
Yes. Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah. So those are the ones that psychologically I began to notice. At the same time, I was really deeply moving down a perceived spiritual path.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was seeking that next part, that next fulfilling nature of life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anything useful inside of there?
Oh, they're absolutely beautiful. And yeah, I'm just recognizing things from the start, because I feel like even though it's probably been happening a few years for me, it's this year, like that I can really sense this change in myself. And just you talking about, the drying and the loss of potency and stuff, like I really resonate with that. And I feel like I'm almost seeing those cycles starting to happen in me. Like I'm moving into of just after my bleed now, and I've started noticing as I'm doing that lately that my skin really glows as I finish my bleed, and as I'm moving towards ovulation. I'm like, yep, here's my that youthfulness is really in my skin, and I can see it, and I feel really, it makes me feel happier, kind of going out into the world like that. And then I've had some cycle lengths up to 50 days lately, and that length after that time, like, yeah, my skin has had rashes and different issues going on, which are probably hormones mixed with my eczema tendencies of my past. But it's I can see the I don't know, the elasticity moving away. And so it's like I'm having a practice, almost in that practice run where I'm seeing, oh, beautiful, youthful skin. Oh, I'm look at those wrinkles starting to come, or not the lack of plumpness, or yeah. So I really resonate with that, and the feeling, that spiritual feeling, like I can just feel this. There's a very deep change of wanting the time to be in my own space, to feel the feelings that I'm feeling and feel who I actually am underneath the mother, wife, um, all of the things that we, create for ourselves of who we are. And yeah, so it's that what am I kind of thing that's moving through. And yeah, with looking at all of this wisdom and knowledge from women in decades past, it feels like it's this potent time of brewing this new life and this new being. And there's so much grief and dread and of losing those types of things, because I think you said it perfectly about how we do walk around with this very naive subconscious thing happening to us in our drawer of the opposite sex, and our attractiveness and these things. So yeah, definitely feel that. Yeah. So
And then
yeah.
we had this, it swapped, it changed from punishing to helping my body have full movement. I've got this whole image in my mind of when I'm 86, I want to be able to walk freely. I want to be able to get up and down. I want to be able to get in and out. I want to be able to reach and carry. I want to be able to do all of that. So in being able to do that, wealth, and that's the wealth I want in my life. So now it's about enabling my body to have the ability to continue to do that. Whereas we used to just be, for me, going to a party, wanted to drop a little bit so that I looked shum for, whatever it was I thought I looked, it would be a 3-week, just watch what I ate, drop bread, blah, blah, concept. This is years ago.
Yeah.
And that's not the thing now. It's about comfort. It's about how long will I wear these shoes actually? It changes. And I remember my mum doing that and rolling my eyes and thinking, for God's sake, Mum, you're a beautiful woman. Stop it. And of course, it was looking through different eyes. It was looking to societal's needs instead of the needs of the woman.
Yeah.
The needs of the woman. The gentleness around the belly button, the gentleness around the bra, the ability to breathe, the torture that we put ourselves through in 6-inch heels. And hey, I did that for years. I was a stiletto wearer. So I can honestly speak about this. That to me was because it showed off my legs and my little heart-shaped calves, and the whole story that I told myself that was fun and fab at that age does not support the balance that I desire to be within now.
Yeah.
Because back then, if I was upset about something, it was pretty, pretty light and dusty and that sort of thing. Now, if I get upset about something, Mother Earth rumbles. Because we develop different ways. We've evolved. We as women have evolved. Bitter or better, my dad always said, bitter or better. And one way for me to be better is to look after my feet and what shoes I put in.
Yeah. Yeah.
When I exercise, be with the movement rather than punishing my body. The oldest saying in the book, stop and smell the roses. For decades, I walked past roses thinking that they were, well, 1, not noticing them, 2, wondering why my mother just kept hanging around the bush. 3, wondering what all the fuss was about, thinking that whatever other judgments I made. Now I make a conscious point to stop and smell the roses, because that is a essential moment.
Yeah.
It's something the rose and I can share.
Yeah.
As deep as, can I be sensual here? As deep as your vulva experiencing you.
Yeah.
It's Mother Earth offering the sweetest petal. And the healing within that is beautiful.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Those little things I walked past, I said no to, I had no idea about.
Yeah.
Those are the differences that make the difference for me physically now, mentally now, emotionally now. Yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. And yeah, it's rose season now, isn't it? So yeah, we've got, I have, you'll probably laugh at this. I'm going to tell the story very quickly because it's kind of off track, but it's to what you said, and it was stop and smell the roses. And I've got this picture that I took in the Hamilton Gardens just last week of my son, and he was smelling all the roses in the beautiful rose garden there. So I've got a little picture, and I thought I should turn that into a meme and put stop and smell the roses. And I was thinking of this in bed, of course, when you get all your great ideas. So I thought, oh, that'd be a good little story to put up. And I haven't yet, because my mind just went, stop and smell the roses. What is smelling a rose? And then I went through the whole process of where smell goes, of that it goes up your nostrils. What are nostrils? They're holes. They're like black holes that have some kind of neural pathway to our brain that tells us that there's something that we call a smell. What's a smell? It's invisible. Anyway, this is my brain at nighttime. But it's so cool because it's like, it's magical, right? If you've actually got that presence to stop and smell the roses. I stopped and smelled the metaphorical rose in bed, and I went on a journey. And so it's yeah, it's quite funny. Yeah, so that was my little off track thing, but I just thought it was yeah, that's where my brain was going. But yeah, I think that's a beautiful, beautiful a reminder for anybody, is that deep presence of being. Yeah.
There also seems, whoever created this process we go through, whatever created it, or the us that created it, the co-creation, however anyone wants to look at that. The plan of it, I run between the paradox of thinking, oh my God, being a woman is so shit. Like we've had all of this stuff happen to our bodies. And then I run the same process of going, oh my God, being a woman is so rich. There are experiences that are at deep structure level that I could never at a surface structure explain. They're only the experience of the person that has had it. And any meaning making we make out of that is well, it filters through our beliefs, through our values, through society, through what we've been told, what we're aware of. It definitely our awarenesses. Definitely our awarenesses, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think one part that I haven't talked to here yet is yeah, I had an operation. I was growing, co-creating something inside of myself on the right fallopian tube, that I actually recognize I knew was there through some levels of pain for well over 7, maybe 8 years. And over that time it grew, so it was like a cyst on the thing. And unfortunately for me, through my way of working with my body, I twisted it, and it just kept twisting. By the time they had to remove it, it was 3 twists deep. And I even judged myself, oh, Karyn, body awareness, where's all this? Actually, the kind of mahi I did, or the kind of work I did, meant that I was often in such an ease of space in my being that I was not paying attention to that discomfort because I was being at ease.
Mm.
So when the body could no longer have that size and there, and I was definitely running through menopause at the the whole process of menopause at the time, unbeknownst really to me, although I figured it was kind of in that it's going to be happening. I was definitely tapping on 50. A couple of years off, yes. I ended up in Waikato Hospital. Took them a long time to find out what was wrong. Eventually, we agreed that it had to come out. And thanks to the medical system in this specific regard, that was a good outcome for me.
Mm.
And I spoke to a woman who's a health practitioner, and she said, you are going to go, what did she say exactly? It was something like, this is going to throw you deep into menopause.
Mm.
Now, saying something and living that is a very different thing. It did throw me completely into menopause. Any of my shadow stuff, I was also newly married at the time to a beautiful man, Neil, my husband, and any of my shadow stuff that I had not dealt with, any of my fears that had been put under a mat or put into a cupboard to look at a different day, or had been ignored, were undeniable. Absolutely undeniable. The emotional roller coaster that surged through me surging it, both reacting and responding, became a little life of its own. I was very uninterested in any support like it, those primrose, anything like that. I went to the health shop and it didn't work somehow it didn't work for me, but then I was never able to take the pill. I was never able to take that kind of thing either. So we were really, I want to say, battling my own beast by myself.
Yeah.
And it was interesting because those lows also provided a brand new high that I'd never experienced before.
Oh, yeah.
So the quietness within me deepened. The sense of really understanding hindsight kicked in. Far less, I mean, maybe it's not true, but far less judgmental process, because I could no longer judge that which I was moving through, because if I did, it became harder. So the accepting of the multiple ages within us that have been maiden, mother, lover, freedom seeker, rule abider, all those sort of things. I feel, never read this, don't know it, but I feel they all come up for choice there at that point there.
Yeah.
There must be a huge cleanse of the system where everything becomes optional to, are you going to continue this, or are you going to enter this new stage from a more conscious place? Yeah.
Yeah. That's beautiful. And that's I think that's really the words that you said earlier, the bitter or better, and what you've just spoken to then, they're very potent. And I've read that in a book not the bitter or bitter, but that's perfect and such a simplistic thing to remember. But that, yes, we do go through exactly what you're putting to us. And in this book that I read, it put to us that are we going to, do the mahi and, move into the second stage of our lives with this beautiful opportunities to serve our communities and ourselves and our families, or they explained it like getting in front of the television and just drinking the wine. Watch TV and drink the wine and don't worry about what's going on and don't look at it, put it away and just live out your days. Doing that is how they kind of
tried that too.
Put it. Yeah. Yeah.
I tried that. I tried, I'm at the stage of my life, I can afford a really good wine now, so I'll have a wine when I want. So I created some whole other rituals about, it's all illusion though.
Yes.
I know I'm getting excited about that's what you're talking about. It's like visual betas. Like we have to try things. The body doesn't recover as well from anything. Unless you have, and now this is my passion now, unless we talk with our body, unless we connect with our body, unless we actually go, hey, what is going on there? What do you need now? Or the whole autogeneric, is it autogeneric or something, where you generate at a verbal level. People used to call these affirmations. I think this is a much deeper process where we say something and we let the cells in the body actually experience that. So I am healthy and I am well. I am healthy and I am well, rather than it being a wish outside. It's an instruction within the cells. So I'm getting better. You have to ask, compared to what?
That's beautiful, just putting the cells in there, because as you are doing that, of course I'm going through the motions, and when you placed at the cellular level, or however you said it, before you said I am healthy, it was like, instead of just me saying healthy in my mind, I went into like what comes from imagination, right? I imagined the cellular structure in my body, and when I said I am healthy in my mind, I could just, it started from like my arms and like came up, so it brought it into the body, because I had the awareness of the cells just from that, like literally one sentence that you said then. So that's pretty cool. Yeah.
And I think this is the difference. Sort of, we have a little bit more time. Or I have more time. My children have left home. I can attend to that which matters to me because of the life that I've lived, but also because of the age that I am. And that is a part of the reward of chronologically aging, and yet still being in contact with the cells. And this has nothing to do and everything to do with it. The cells in our body, I think, are the deepest wisdoms that we have. And our interplay between that, what we call the mind. But if we just go, our intention and our connection, or our connection and our evolution of it, just, we don't even know what's possible.
Yeah.
I need women in a different way now than I used to. So it's far more purposeful. I'm happy to sit quietly. That doesn't necessarily mean it's menopause.
Yeah.
Although I do feel that the ability to sit with what I never used to understand, the ability to sit with loss, as in and not be saddened by that, to just be with that space, that void, that the depth of the void. Then with there is the potency beyond bearing children.
Yeah.
There's a whole nother level of potency that's available to us. This is being a part of the village that's raising. This is supporting people who are, the roles change.
Yeah. Yeah.
The roles change, yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Anything in there that's useful? Oh, I have
yeah.
one more thing. So I had a when we took out my tube and the growth, I didn't know what to do with it. Didn't want it staying at the hospital. And so I put it in my freezer, and it stayed in there for a couple of years. And Lynley's beautiful ceremonies, I spoke to her one day and I said, I think I need to actually properly move through this. I don't know whether to burn it, to bury it, to throw it to the sea. I just didn't know what I wanted to do with it. So Lynley and I had a conversation that I don't recall fully how that went. I know I was quite deeply emotional, Lynley, because I was moving through and you held space for that beautifully. So this was our setup. And then Lynley came down to our beautiful property. This is our property. This is the top part, but down the bottom in the Ngahere, or in the bush down there, we went down there and Lynley held the most beautiful ceremony. She held the space. And I got the opportunity to without judgment, without social norms and social expectations and of my own or anybody else, to grieve, to fight the process, to celebrate the process, to include. For me, it was an inclusion of all the women in my line before me participating as well, recognizing how potent it is in these change of life ceremonies, and to laugh, to cry, to sing, and all of that happened. And drum, Lynley, you were drumming, so that was really beautiful, really, really, really beautiful. And it reminds me now to also say that when my daughter had her first bleed at 10, I talked to my friends and we put together a maiden ceremony.
Beautiful.
And Charm herself can't believe that every other girl has not had it, because for her, she was accepted as a woman at the age of 10. And it was a beautiful ceremony. And Lynley, I'm sure, can provide that for your daughters as well. Very beautiful. This entering womanhood. And for me, having an exit, because the entry was, it was a muck in my pants after.
Yeah.
After the newspaper. But my life as a woman has still been beautiful.
Yeah.
It's just lovely when it gets symbolized and acknowledged, and there's a ceremony and a ritual that partakes in that. And I believe deeply, Lynley, that the work and mahi that you're offering it's really important. Really important.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah, and thank you for the opportunity, because that was just such a beautiful experience for me. And it's just so interesting when you watch life as it moves through these things and you have this thought. And all of that started, and I remember being in your kitchen and I used the word Marga and spoke to you about the Marga, which is the maiden mother, Marga Crone, the newer archetype, which represents the autumn. And so you'd never heard of that before. And
No.
yeah, and that was what opened the space for you. I think I won't speak for you, but it seemed like that word on its own brought something to life. And just ready I guess the stage of that we needed to move into ceremony and ritual and do something to acknowledge this transition that you had been moving through and had completed. And yeah, so did you have something to say to speak to for that one?
Yeah, because the margats really, I remember that, and also then the exploration that we went through in the women's group that you also led, and it was beautiful. And many of us in that particular group do have adult children and have already done quite a passage, and we weren't at all aligning with Crone. So we were sort of like, what is this and what is this twins world?
Yeah.
we know it's the place of magic, but what is this twins world?
Yeah.
And when there was a label for it, it created a doorway of potentiality and possibility that beautifully enough had not been too shaped in my mind by society at that stage. So I felt like it was a freedom doorway.
Yes.
Yeah. So
yeah.
Yeah.
And I noticed that too. Whoever I share that with, if they have not heard of the fourth archetype within Maiden Mother Margaret Crone, that it has that effect. And it did on me when I first read it, because I thought, okay, so I'm moving from mother. How can I claim Crone at 50? Or like, I'm 44 at the moment, but when my process, when I can say I've completed my menopause and I no longer bleed and I've gone on, how can I claim Crone when there's these women still 2 decades older than me that I look up to as my elders? And so when this having the Marga come through, I was like, wow, yeah, that's it. I'm moving into that space. And it's and the women who explained this, this concept, I'm like, yeah, I can just feel it deeply in it. And it just enriched the feeling of our purpose in the world, because like you mentioned earlier, we have this like kind of built-in biological purpose of having babies, and even if we don't consciously think of that, we're like moving through our life with this kind of importance. And then once that goes away, it's like, wow, what can we actually like birth into this world in a completely different way? And all it just blew everything open. And that's why I feel like this is just such a beautiful journey, to be able to explore this time of our life, and to just break some social constructs. And yes, there might be some physical and biological things that we have to, like health expressions that we have to move through, and how can we like reframe them and look at them in different ways. And like what you've done, Karyn, just really start thinking about, what can I do so I can still move when I'm 80? And so all of those types of things, it opens up so much possibility, I feel.
It does. And then the wisdom and fun of it is like, how do we keep an elastic mind? Because there's other things that have set in for me far deeper than I expected, which is routines and patterns that have created to be quite a stable, so a fixed thing, because it works for us, and still desiring to keep a flexible mind. Because we can have this elasticity in our mind. I know that's not how you say it, and I don't give a shit. The ability to actually change our mind, the ability to actually change a belief, the ability to actually shift and change, to be able to be loose on things and yet construct and co-create at the same time. Have to think about this. When your body's not having, this is new to me as an idea, when your body's not going through that, having to create the potentiality of life every month, it's been this derogatory look at it for me to, like, So everything then at 50, your eyesight or this and your thing or that and your this and you lose this and you lose that and your body does this and loss of that and it's all about loss.
Yeah.
Shit, really.
Yeah.
It's just BS because it's not even halfway through a potential century.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
our bodies heal themselves. And maybe we've just been buying into this rather than actually just regenerating within the knowledge and wisdom that's there. If my body doesn't have to, and it doesn't anymore, have to create that potentiality, there's no longer that going on. So it's self-fulfilling, but it's not, because there's still genetic lines that run through to my children and through to my parents.
Yeah.
And all that wisdom is available now because I'm part of the pearl of the necklace. I'm part of the history. I am a part of the history now.
Yeah.
Because there's been something come from me, been something birthed from me. So more than ever now, I just see it really clearly. It's like that from the belly button through to it is time to literally own the wisdom. Not own it. That's not right. I don't want to say that. But be in ownership of the perspective of the current wisdom that we have.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is that ownership of the current wisdom that we have so that we can, from a spiritual path, from an energetic, supportive path, nurture at a much deeper level the potentiality and possibility of co-creations moving forward.
Yeah.
It's pretty exciting. Thank you for the conversation.
Yeah, it's beautifully exciting. And, these are the conversations that you want your children to hear the essence of, as well. Because, I've really noticed it with having my kids, how the elder people around me and what I've experienced like to tell us about, you wait till you're old, then you'll know what it's like to have these tired whatever. And I'm not taking away from that for them. That's their experience and I honor that. But I also tell my children afterwards, it doesn't have to be like that. There are plenty of people I've witnessed, that at 70s, 80s, 90s that are doing amazing things and still putting their legs above their head and doing whatever. And, and then you even meet, I've in the supermarket the other day, the same thing, that an older woman placed her things and she's like, oh, it's terrible getting old, I tell you, and she just went to say this in front of me and my son. I'm like, I gave her the compassion that she was obviously looking for. And then again, to say to my son, it doesn't have to be like that. It's just but it's just interesting how society, you can see how we get into these belief places and how we just, well, if we're not conscious of what's been implanted, we're just going to play it out. We're just going to accept that this is how I'm not going to be able to move properly. My back's going to be so sore I can't hold my shopping basket for any longer than 10 minutes. We're going to accept that if we don't actually consciously
Yet there has to be some reality to it. So up and down off the floor now, I'm careful with myself. When I'm lifting things with my husband on the farm, I go to him, hang on, babe, just can we do this slowly? So there is a care that didn't used to be there. It was just bunctious movements before because of this. I don't know what runs through the system when you can create life within. It must be this I'm invincible or something. And it's an energy line I'm going to walk down now that I've brought that up. And it is an interesting one. And I can definitely sense that there is change and there is new ways of being, and it just doesn't have to be how we've been told it is. But that's very true about I used to be very what do you call it, I guess, rough with my body and hard with my body and do things that I just can't, since I've had children, will not do, because it's like, oh, that might break me, or it just doesn't feel like, so I do understand the feelings and how they'll That's
differently. yeah, that's really interesting, but it's yeah, it's just the limitations we want to squash, isn't it? More than anything.
It's interesting because I think some of it is just the knowledge of consequences that we didn't have before.
Yes, yeah, it's
and then
probably that too.
then there'll be that little flick in the knee, and it's like, oh, that didn't feel good. So, like it's feedback, the body feeding back. Let's say I'm walking down the hill and I've got something in my arms and I'm in gumboots and something, I'm off balance in a heavy way. I will not just go, oh, deal with it, knee. I'll be like, okay, how can I do this differently?
Yeah.
Because I want to be able to be full movement the next day.
Yes.
And not for some ignorance of me to overlook what I am asking of my body. If I was in town and not doing that sort of thing, it would be something else that I'm asking my body to do. And honestly, when people are sitting in cars, you're asking your body to do a lot.
Yeah.
If the whole, I can't help myself, but the whole front hip flexor there in the front, if that's not getting a decent amount of opening on a daily basis and we're in constant sit mode, we are not helping our bodies at all. It's no different than me trying to walk down the hill with heavy things in my hand, because we're putting our body under tension.
Yeah.
This is way off the conversation.
Well, it's way off, but it's also, it brings it back around to what you were speaking of earlier, which is that real awareness of body coming in, isn't it? And like, yes, there will be, I'm not denying that there'll be some changes, and but how can we bring that awareness in? How can I do that differently? How can I do this differently was the perfect question that you just said. With this awareness, what do I need to do, or how do I do this differently? So I think there's lots of room for awareness and questions, and
and what's beautiful is we have the richness of more days on the planet, which chronologically is we are older. Does that make sense? So we have just a richness of more days on the planet. We've forgotten more than we've learned normally, I think. Is my observation of myself. It doesn't mean it's fully forgotten. It just means it's not being currently used. So it's outside of the field within me. So definitely there's ups to it too. My body is my body now. It's not the jungle gym or the suckling point of the child or a baby. And my judgments of me must be re-looked at through the lens of this difference. Because as I continue to judge myself in the past and this now, it's not true. It's actually not the same. So it's just news of difference. And I say that really purposely. It's news of difference, of different. Some things are the same, but many are not. And I think I just said this about 15, 20 minutes ago. It is an opportunity to reassess pretty much everything. And as my dad says, better or better.
That's perfect. An opportunity to reassess anything and everything, better or better. I think that is just such a encapsulating thing to take away from our conversation today. And I deeply thank you for being here, Karyn, and speaking this beautiful wisdom for everybody.
I think we'll just go, a few grays there.
Proof of the wise. Proof of the wise.
Oh, thank you, my friend.
Oh, thank you.